Now, I did want to point out that coincidence, I think not maybe, that you grew up thinking you were Mulan, love Mulan. The sidekick for Mulan was Mushu, right? Which is
Hmm.
a dragon, which
Yes.
is the mascot for the Power Platform Conference. See the connection I made there?
The
Yeah,
Which is
connection?
all
okay. If you
kinds of
can
puns
find a
here.
way to fit Kevin Bacon in this whole thing,
That's right. We've completed the circle. Welcome to Power Platform Connections, where we highlight and interview amazing community contributors like you, and then take a look at all the amazing work and articles and blogs that you've been doing in the community over the past few days. My name is David Warner. I'm a community program manager for Microsoft, and with me, my co-host.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hugo Bernier, and I'm super excited today because the person that we are going to be talking to is probably one of the most connected people at Microsoft. And you'll understand what I mean when you get to meet this program manager who works in the Dataverse team. Her name is Jocelyn Panchal. Jocelyn?
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
We need the drum roll there for the pun that Hugo made. Connected. Of course, connectors are a thing for you. So why don't you introduce yourself to everyone that's watching?
I am the product manager for Power Platform Connectors. We reside in the Dataverse org. I used to work on Power Automate as well, so I have a lot of experience in the flow space. I also want to call out that the show is called Power Platform Connections, and that's extra ironic because we're talking about connectors.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been planning this moment for years. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about who you are, give a little bit about your personal side of Jocelyn, so everybody has an opportunity to kind of connect with you. That's going to be a theme, I think, today at upcoming events and all that jazz, right? So you grew up in New York, New Jersey. You had mentioned that you kind of love going back and visiting it because it is home, right? And so obviously there's some warm fuzzies there and nostalgic stuff. What is one thing about it, though, that regardless if you live there, you love, like going back, even if you didn't grow up there, it's just something you love about it?
Food. I feel like that's going to be a big theme throughout a lot of the things we talk about today. Food. I'm a big foodie, I guess. I grew up eating, so I'm half Chinese and half Indian. So I grew up eating a lot of Chinese food, and there's a lot of different styles of Chinese food. Obviously, China's a big country, but the style that I grew up with is really prevalent there, as well as Italian food, because when you're from Brooklyn, Italian food is super prevalent and super authentic, and the bakeries and everything are just incredible. So one of the first things I always do when I go home is to go to find a cannoli or find some prosciutto bread or some rice balls or something that I can't find in Seattle. That's
one of the things that I love about New York, too, is just that it's so culturally diverse. So you've got so much authentic options available to you, right? It's not just like, oh, I want authentic Chinese, I'm going to go to Panda or something like that, right? You've got actual authenticity there, which is awesome.
One of the best parts about Manhattan is like Chinatown and Little Italy are literally bordering each other, like borders. So you could just get some dim sum and then get some gelato back to back.
Now, you mentioned eating. I think you also like cooking and baking, you had mentioned. Now, I don't know if we've mentioned this. I'm trying to remember. Hugo used to be a chef. I don't know that I've ever brought that up, but it's like right there. Hugo is landing on Hugo, right? Tell us a little bit about, you had mentioned that you love homemade, not fake ingredients. So is that something that you spend a lot of time doing? And tell us a little bit about that passion.
I grew up cooking a lot with my mom. My mom's a fantastic cook. So she had me in the kitchen with her young, not like obligatory, but just I always was watching her in the kitchen. Whether I was doing homework or just sitting around, I was always watching her. So as I got older, I got super involved in everything. So I'm very big on cooking things from scratch. I'm not about like getting sauce from a jar or a can or something. We start from the crushed tomatoes and go ahead and simmer that down for hours. I also started growing my own scallions, which is super awesome because I can just go up to my window with a scissor and just have like fresh green onions for soup or whatever I'm having that day.
Being that you do like to cook and bake, and those are both very different, obviously. Mm-hmm. What is your all-time favorite thing, whether it makes it for a good comfort food or just you enjoy the process of it? But what is like your one favorite thing to cook or bake?
I have like two different answers. For cook, I think my comfort food is like some kind of a spicy beef noodle soup. And I always start my soup by making broth myself from bones. So when I buy a steak or something, I'll always freeze the bones and keep them in order to make like a really good rich broth with. And then slicing up some kind of steak super thin to have it in the soup with some noodles. That's like comfort food to me. And then
I approve.
Thank you. Come back to Seattle. We'll eat. And then for baking, my go-to is brownies because it's easier. But I got a present from my dad a couple of years ago for Christmas of like a fancy frosting set. I sometimes like frosting more than I like cake itself. So I spend time making homemade buttercream and then making like super, super aesthetically pleasing frosting designs.
So that's why everybody wants the corners, right? Because it's always like, ooh, I get multi-sides of frosting. Yeah. All right. One more thing on the personal side. I think it was interesting. You'd mentioned that you're half Chinese, half Indian, but you grew up speaking Spanish. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So when I was super little, I had like 2 cartoon idols. I was either Mulan, trying to save China, always. I did karate for like 8 or 9 years of my life. Or my other alter ego was Dora. And maybe we could put a picture. I really looked like Dora as a child. I had like the bangs and everything. So I always loved Dora, and I always loved learning Spanish language and learning about Latin culture. So I grew up taking the classes in school, but I ended up making a lot of friends that were Mexican in Jersey. The Mexican population is much bigger there, as well as from Mexico as well, because my parents would take me on vacation, and their condition would be like, while you're there, you have to try to speak the language of the people. So every time I went back, I would learn more and more and more. And eventually I would end up friends with some of the people that I would meet in Mexico, and we would stay in touch. I would text people on WhatsApp, and I would start listening to the music and getting more and more involved in the culture until eventually I was just fluent.
That's
awesome.
Very cool. I think it's a good policy that your parents instilled in you, that when you travel somewhere, that you make an effort to speak the local language.
Absolutely.
It just shows respect. And I've been in locations where I started speaking the local language and immediately they switched to English or French, to spare me, but or they didn't want to be insulted. But I think if you're making an effort, even if it's just to say hello and thank you, it makes a big difference.
Speaking of immersing yourself into the culture, you have immersed yourself into the community for Microsoft and the Power Platform. Tell us a little bit about how that has been so inspiring for you and you want to do more and work with more of the community members.
Yes. So I was super fortunate to step in role from Natalie, my predecessor as the former PM for Connectors. And she had met you guys. She had formulated so many amazing opportunities for me to speak on PNP and work with independent publishers and everything. So I'm really grateful to have taken a lot of those responsibilities from her. But what does it mean to me? Obviously, Power Platform has this mantra of low code, no code, but that really resonates with me more so, given that I don't actually come from a traditional computer science background. A lot of big tech employees go the, CS bachelor's, maybe a master's of sorts route. My degree is actually in mechanical engineering with a minor in Spanish, as I mentioned. I studied primarily carbon neutrality and thermodynamics. So coming into big tech space as a product manager, immersed in the actual feature development and everything, was definitely a right turn. But what I hope that I can do as somebody who enables these low-code products and as somebody who embodies that low-code mantra is to inspire others to not feel like they're limited by their formal education in computer science or lack thereof. I think Power Platform should really represent that whole low-code experience where you don't have to be a pro developer. You can be anyone. You can be a student. You can be in some other industry altogether. You don't have to have any experience with coding whatsoever. You don't even have to do like a hello world to get started. And what I am super excited to announce when we're talking about all of the capabilities that low code can enable is that the Power Platform connector ecosystem now boasts over 1,000 certified connectors.
That is amazing. Wow.
Thank
That's awesome.
you.
Now,
Yes.
do you mind, for people who don't know what a connector is, do you mind talking a little bit about what connectors are and why we're making such a big deal about this?
Of course, yes. So the fancy technical definition is that it's a wrapper proxy around an API that allows for connectivity to the Power Platform. But in more plain words, obviously, because we want to be approachable and friendly here, is that connectors serve as the highway in between other data sources or other services into the Power Platform. So when you go to create a flow and you need to enable something like enable an action with Outlook, when you want to go and actually execute sending an email, it is the Outlook connector that is going to connect that flow to the email. Or when you're creating a Power Apps and you want to pull in information from a data source like an Excel spreadsheet, it's that connector that's serving as the highway to extract that data from the Excel spreadsheet into the Power Apps.
That's amazing. So that means you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to understand the APIs that are exposed by whatever ecosystem you're trying to connect to. You just need to basically find the right connector and find the right actions and triggers.
Exactly.
Now you have different types of connectors, right?
Yes.
You've got the ones that are out of the box, if you will, but you've got other connectors. You mind talking about the different types of connectors?
Of course. Every connector starts off as what we call a custom connector. A custom connector is the original one that's just deployed within your own environment. But what happens between custom connector and part of the 1,000? It goes through a process that we call the certification process. From there, that's how you take a connector that somebody made and make it available on that list of available connectors on Power Automate or on Power Apps, for example. That certification process is super interactive. You work with myself and my awesome certification team on GitHub to go through some validation and some testing and some iteration until it's perfect, and you can go and deploy it onto our website. And you also have the opportunity to revise and iterate as well. And within all of these certified connectors, we also have 3 main types. We have first-party connectors, which are made by Microsoft. They primarily represent Microsoft-owned services like the Outlook, like the SharePoint, like the Dataverse, but a couple of them that we made in our early days when our ecosystem was still growing, like LinkedIn and YouTube. We then have verified third-party connectors, which are made by large enterprises leveraging the APIs that they own themselves. But one of the most exciting ones is probably the independent publisher connector. This is where that community aspect really comes in. Independent publisher connectors are made by anyone. Anyone can be an independent publisher. A student, MVP, a citizen dev, anyone. You guys can be independent publisher connectors or independent publishers that make an IP connector.
I can connect people. I can try to connect people.
You should make like a David Warner connector.
You should talk to, yeah.
But independent publisher connectors are just made by anyone, leveraging an open source API to any service. So there are so many awesome examples of rich use case scenarios that are empowered by IP connectors. Just to name a few recently, we have OpenAI, obviously, that's our major one. We have WhatsApp, which was actually made by a student group as well. So just because they're made by the community does not mean that they're lacking in power at all.
If you don't find what you're looking for in the 1,000 of connectors that are available, if there is an API that you can access, whether it's your own internal API or it's a publicly accessible API, you can actually use a custom connector to talk to it and reuse that connector throughout the environment. And that also includes on-premise connections, right? Because we have mechanisms to connect to on-premise, which is something I think when we first talk to customers, they're like, oh, my system is only on-premise and we're not going to be able to use the Power Platform. And I'm happy to say that, yes, we can. There are mechanisms to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned also the OpenAI one, so I just wanted to do a quick plug because when this airs, which is in the future, we're going to be a day after the Power Platform community call, which when you're watching this will have been a day in the past. And Robin, who created the connector, will be on there doing a demo showing how to cool ways to use it. So by the time you watch it, that will have already happened, even though it's in the future from now, but you can go back to the past and watch it.
I'm confused. Is it now?
Now? When did it happen? Just now. Did I miss it?
So
Robin is so amazing as well. I just want to say we're both actually MEs in the same area of specialty. He's a perfect example of making that transition into the low code space from a different background, just like myself. We bonded over Thermo.
So just to cover our bases, Robin, great demo. And also, Robin, I'm sorry for the incident that happened during your demo. So we got all bases covered. Hey, there's something else that's happening with connectors, though, because for the longest time, connectors were really limited to kind of Power Automate, and you could start using them for Power Apps, and Azure Logic Apps. But we're starting to see connectors being used in the larger ecosystem at Microsoft. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Absolutely, yes. So I'm sure people have heard about Copilot, lots of things with Copilot. In October, Power Automate talked about NL2 Flow, natural language to flow, where you can go and describe a flow and it'll design it for you. With M365 Copilot, connectors are being integrated outside of Power Platform, as you're saying, into other areas like Teams, for example. So with all of these updates with Copilot that Charles was talking about, we now can take that, describe it to design it one step even further, where you can really create flows that are interactive outside of just the space of flow, but into other areas as well, and iterate on it and perfect it without even needing to interact with those action cards yourself or really understand how to work with Power Automate. So we're really taking that low code, no code mantra to the furthest extreme. You don't even have to be like not a pro dev. You don't even have to be a regular old user of Power Automate. You just got to know how to describe the situation you're looking for.
That's awesome. And do you mind, without revealing anything NDA, what's next for connectors? What do you look forward to?
I think that definitely keep in mind that mantra of connectors are not just going to be in Power Platform. You can start to see use cases of connectors elsewhere in Microsoft. And I also will tease, keep in mind the power of templates as well. Templates are these pre-made use case scenarios of flows that are leveraging connectors. So even if you don't want to describe it to design it, you can find your use case scenario elsewhere already listed. So maybe imagining these scenarios in other places across Microsoft products.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting.
And we've been very lucky. Geetha, who's a regular or who's been featured many times on this on this show, has been sharing a lot of the templates that are readily available and showing real life examples of some cool templates. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on it.
Stay connected.
Stay connected. There you go. So speaking of connectors, I think there's something that's really interesting that's happening at Microsoft, right? In the past, Microsoft used to be that organization that would say, no, we own everything. We will only talk to Microsoft products and so on and so forth. But with connectors, we've been able to extend the ecosystem. But there's also something else that's happening. Instead of Microsoft writing all the code, the community has been able to to help. And they've really extended the amount of connectors that we've been able to create in a short amount of time. Is this something you're noticing in the connector community? It's hard to say 2 times fast.
Absolutely, Hugo. I just want to call out, of the over 1,000 connectors that we have across our ecosystem, more are made by independent publishers now than were made by Microsoft ourselves. We would not be at this 1,000 milestone without all of the amazing partners and publishers from around the world that have taken a leap of faith with us and decided to contribute to our ecosystem. So obviously, there's so much hard work that has been put by my team internally, but we would have had no efforts to place our hard work towards if it was not for all of these amazing publishers that wanted to invest in us with their APIs or with their connector ideas.
What about someone who has an idea for a connector, but they feel it's just a small connector? Is it's a small API that doesn't do a lot? What would you say? Is it worth their time?
I would say give it a shot. I mean, at a minimum, first, you can make it as a custom connector and play around with it in your own environment. You can iterate on it and beef it up if you want to, but give it a shot. We try not to be super exclusive or anything like that. And we're also happy to help you debug and iterate and revise along your validation process as well.
And I've been monitoring the connector GitHub repo, and I can attest that no one ever says, "Oh, you're silly. You made this mistake." Everyone's always super supportive and very helpful. So that's a great experience for someone who's just getting started in open source contributions. Now, if only we had something else that we do, David, that helps with open source contributions.
What? Could you possibly care enough to share with me what you're thinking? Yes, we have a program called Sharing is Caring, right? So Hugo, why don't you tell them about it?
Well, no, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No, you hang up first.
Oh my God, you guys are so cute.
So Sharing is Caring is a program that many know. We started it as an assist to the community. That's not just a blog or a video or you left to yourself to try to tie together little things you've read. It is live, hands-on sessions where we walk members of the community through how to accomplish any one thing. So we're happy to announce and say that we are going to be building a connector Sharing is Caring session. So anybody that wants to know how to build a connector, we will come together in an hour and a half session, and we'll build one together. And we'll look at the various aspects, and we'll talk about the certification process. And of course, that will act as a contribution. But then you can take that knowledge and go build one that is actually then baked into the product. Because I think, Jocelyn, I think that's maybe something that doesn't get underscored enough, and maybe you can help assist with this, which is you're not just building a custom connector that's then just simply like this little side business, so to speak, to the regular connectors. It is integrated into the product.
Absolutely. Super official. Your name's on there. There's documentation. You get telemetry reports to figure out how people are doing it. What's your usage looking like? Super duper official.
So that's pretty awesome, I think, to be able to say that you impacted in product features for anyone, available to anyone in the community. So exciting.
Yeah, and the Microsofties know you too. Like we talk about our publishers in our meetings and say like, oh, so-and-so made XYZ connector, or we were talking to, ABC person about their connector. We know you. We look out for you. I recognize the names of my publishers.
And I have to say that your session at the MVP Summit was probably one of the most entertaining and well-delivered sessions. It was really good. If anybody went to that session as an MVP, going like, I don't know if I'm going to contribute, I think everyone was inspired. So good job for doing that.
Thank you.
For people who are not MVPs, who are scared of, we're talking about GitHub, and GitHub can be scary, right? So again, I want to remind everyone that the reason why we started Sharing is Caring is to remove that fear, that barrier to adoption. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And I think any of us, if you want to reach out to any of us, we're more than happy to help.
Yep. And you can learn more at aka.ms/sharing-is-caring, which you can find right down there. So check it out. And if you want to help out, we're looking to scale, by the way. So if you want to volunteer and start helping administer some sessions, then let us know. All right. Well,
Jocelyn, wait, Jocelyn, I want to put you on the spot. If you had your wish for a connector that hasn't been done yet, what would be that connector?
WeChat.
Oh,
WeChat.
Cool.
We have a lot of the other SMS type services. We have a great WhatsApp one now I mentioned earlier, but we don't have a WeChat one. And I think that'll help with like a really good demographic of users in the East Asia area that we are not representing super well right now.
Awesome.
That's very cool. So if
it's on our list of top connector asks, if you go visit our GitHub, and maybe you can go and make the WeChat connector. Yeah.
There you go. So if you're out there and you're looking at, I wish I could do a connector. I don't know which one to do. Now you know.
That's right. As we sit here and chat, you can go make the WeChat connector. All right.
It was not cheesy at all.
Not at all. Jocelyn, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with us today and share with the community a different perspective and an opportunity as well. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. And thank you to the community and to the publishers who made this amazing milestone a reality. All of the effort that we put in would not have been possible without the community.
Agreed. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Well, it's about that time for us to review all the amazing articles, blogs, and videos that you've shared with us over the past week. Now, if you're a content author and you're sharing your information with the community, we would love to highlight it. All you need to do is tag your tweets or your LinkedIn posts with that little guy right there, Power Platform Connects hashtag, and we will scour the interwebs and include it. Hugo, what do you got for us this week?
Well, we have a few articles this week. Our first article is a blog post by Natalie Linders on how to do your Microsoft exams for free. And she's talking about some secrets that are not so secret, really. And don't worry, she's not showing you how to cheat and how to steal exams. Those are all completely legit ways to actually get your exams for free. All you need to do is to actually join some challenges online, and then you'll get vouchers for these exams. So you have a whole bunch of exams: Azure AI Fundamentals, Azure Administrator, Developing Solutions for Azure, Azure Infrastructure, Microsoft DevOps Solutions, Cloud Native Applications using Azure Cosmos DBs, Power Platform Developers, and much more. So go take a look at the article. It's a great way. And in fact, it's like Natalie and Keith Atherton got together and talked about this because Keith also has a blog post on how to get your exams for free using the Microsoft Learn Cloud Skills Challenges at Microsoft Build 2023. So there are about 8 challenges that you can follow to learn some skills, and then you get a free Microsoft certification exam. So again, 2 great resources on how to get your exams completed and get certified. And I just love that these 2 folks are helping other people just be better in the community. So thank you both, Natalie and Keith. Our next blog post is by Ellis Karim, and Ellis shows how to find files in OneDrive that match a naming pattern. So Ellis is a super user. He's always super active in the power users community, but today he took some time to write this blog post. And so what happens is Ellis has some cool documents in his OneDrive that he wants to recognize. And the documents follow a naming pattern in his case. And so what he wanted to do is he wanted to find all the documents that meet those naming patterns. And he's using a regular expression to do that. He actually shares a cool website where you can learn to use regular expressions. Little trick, by the way, you can also use ChatGPT to get your regular expressions written. And then he's using those regular expressions into the find files in a folder by path for OneDrive in his Power Automate. And then using that, he's able to retrieve all the documents and perform whatever actions he needs to do. Our next post is by Pranav Khurana. Pranav, again, is the youngest Power Platform maker that we found so far, and he is writing about his fond memories of the Scottish Summit 2022. He attended the Scottish Summit last year with his dad, Gulshan Khurana, and it was one of his first one, and he was very excited about it. And one of the things he talks about in this blog post is how as soon as he walked in through the doors, he could feel just the energy, right? He was very warmly received. He got an instant sense of belonging, and everyone wanted to take a picture with him. And it was an incredible feeling for him, and it made him feel like a celebrity. And so it was a great conference, and Scottish Summit is a great conference, and he looks forward to going to it every year. And I couldn't agree more. Good job, Pranav. And Victor Dantas, who was recently announced as a speaker at the Power Platform Conference in October, was just posting about how excited he is to meet all his Power Platform heroes. I'm not going to list them all here, but they're all here, and we're going to mention them in the blog post. But one thing that I wanted to make sure that you know is if you have not registered for the Power Platform Conference, and if you also want to meet these awesome folks, please don't hesitate to register at the URL right below, which is powerplatformconf.com. And that's it for me for this week.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for our episode today. Thank you for tuning in. For all those who are creating amazing content in the community, just a reminder, if you'd like us to cover your blogs, articles, or videos, or samples, be sure when you share it with the community on Twitter and LinkedIn, you associate that hashtag Power Platform Connects. Power Platform Connects, and we will be. I'm going to get this eventually, folks. We will scour the interwebs and include all of it. Now, that's not the only thing that you can do. Hugo, what else can they do?
You can also go to aka.ms/join the community right here, David, where you can actually become a user in the Power Users community, and you can ask questions, you can answer questions, and you can generally just meet other people who are just as passionate as you are about the Power Platform. Thank you for all your
everybody.
help.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.
And I watched this otter bite this other otter in the neck and drag it down a flight of stairs, and it never came back. So I got this otter to memorialize that story.
Is that what the photo's in reference to?
That was a different otter.
That's an otter.
All right, everybody. Well, that's I don't even know where I'm at right now. Good Lord. But
Stay here until midnight.
let's go.